All right, let's come all together and work on unpacking this. I'd like us to focus in on this first verse. And gonna get ready, Phil. Get your running shoes on. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. What is Paul describing there? What's Paul describing in that? What does that actually look like? Speaking in the tongues of mortals and angels, but not having love, and being a noisy gong. And what's he describing?
I think it's a picture of walking in the flesh.
Okay, you want to say, come over here, want to add? Yep, why don't you come on over? Okay, great. If you're loud, say it.
It's humanity.
Can you unpack? I don't fill us out. What do you mean by that?
That nature, sin, that he battles with the corrupted man.
Okay, here.
I think in Corinth, you make it be eloquent is the big deal thing. So you can be eloquent and make a big splash, or you can bang a cymbal and make a big noise. This is all about the show versus the reality of something that's more important to God.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I mean, they're used to, back here, please. They're used to these, great philosophers, and being an eloquent preacher is incredibly valuable, not just in the Christian community, but in the community as a whole. In Corinth, and Paul says, I can be with the best of them. I can speak in all of these languages. I can be empowered to speak with the tongues of angels. And yet, go ahead.
Words are very distinct. Distinct meaning, distinct words. The gong is just this wow, just this noise. I think he's making a contrast between the distinction of loving and with our heart, or just the distinction of loving versus the distinction of just of not loving, and it just is this sound as opposed to distinct things.
Great, thank you.
The picture that comes to my mind, I think of noisy gongs and cymbals, is the worship or devotion taking place in the Tibetan Buddhist temple. I'm wondering if any of the pagan temples would come to mind of those hearers in this message.
Yeah, so it's just this kind of unpleasant clanging. It doesn't actually communicate. It doesn't actually connect. Let's just keep thinking about this. Somebody had asked the question, how do I have love? I'd like us to look at it this way. What does it mean to do these things without love? What does it mean to speak on God's behalf without love? What does it mean to prophesy or to have knowledge but have it even with great faith but without love? What does it mean to be a person of sacrifice, to give your possessions but without love? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Paul, another place says, speak the truth in love. Someone has commented that if we speak the truth without love, it sounds like judgment. And that's kind of what we heard last night about the United States view of the church. We're always talking about what's wrong. There's truth in that. But if the love doesn't come through, that our hearts are broken for that, then it sounds like judgment.
Yes, you might even be saying or doing what's true and right, but if it isn't motivated by love, it actually is not received as a blessing from God. We haven't heard any women speak yet. Would you please join in the conversation, ladies? I mean, you've heard me, but... Other things about what it means to do these various things, but without love. Yes.
Well, we were discussing the idea that motivation in Scripture isn't always connected to what truth is being said. So there are truths that are said, but when Jesus talks about the disciples come to Jesus and say, "There are many who are casting out demons in my name," and but they're not part of us. So I find it interesting because I think we all talk about wanting the right motive,
Okay, so you're raising the issue, is love just the how that we do something, or is it also the why, right? Is it the motive behind what we do? Other thoughts about this? Okay, well, we can go on to a next question. Somebody over here had raised the question, how is it possible to have the Holy Spirit and have all these gifts and abilities from the Spirit, but not have love? How is that possible? Right back here? Yep, can you stand up, please?
Well, my belief is that love is a fruit of the Spirit, character of Jesus, which takes a lifetime to grow. Gifts of the Spirit can operate in your life simply as a result of your faith. That you believe God, you believe the Word of God is available to you. You can operate in gifts without the fruit being maturity.
Okay, so you can operate in the gifts of God without actually having the maturity of the fruit of the Spirit in you. Other things? Other thoughts? It seems like God's taking a big risk, right? Willing to give his power to his people long before they develop the maturity, the character of love. Right here, right, Phil, right behind you.
We're just kind of talking about the whole idea of having love and the gifts that you're able to work in and God has given to you. Just because you have a gift maybe of speaking or writing or presenting doesn't mean that God is empowering you through those gifts. So you can have people that have those abilities and it's not necessarily God working through that gift. Does that make sense? So you can be a good presenter, and if you're not doing it in love, you're just presenting material.
That's true, except when we get on to verse 2, if I have prophetic powers, like those clearly they come from God, and yet they can be used without motivated by love. Let me ask you this, what are the other kinds of things that motivate us besides love when it comes to teaching or functioning in prophetic powers or in demonstrating great faith even, or in being sacrificial in our giving? What are other kinds of motivations? Back there.
When we say what other kind of things can be motives, I mean, the Bible says do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. And I think our own desires to achieve, to have glory or get credit can corrupt every single spiritual gift. So if somebody has compassion, that can turn into codependency. If somebody has knowledge, it can turn into sort of an arrogance. Or you can have a gift of intercession and think that you have the power to do things instead of the communication to the person with the power. So every gift can be corrupted by sin.
Yeah, and it sounds like when that corruption happens, the focus becomes back on ourselves. That self-ambition, the selfish ambition, the vain conceit. How do I look here? Is my point being made? Do I am the one that has the power and control? As opposed to, is it blessing others? Is it building others up? And this is Paul's theme over and over again. The building up of the body, the building up of the body. Yes?
There's also a possibility of working outside the power of the Holy Spirit. In Matthew 7:22, it says, many will tell me that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, cast out demons, in your name, do mighty works? This is the part that will never leave you.
Yeah, it's one of the scariest verses in the New Testament, in my opinion. As somebody that speaks on behalf of God and teaches his word, oh Lord, may I not be one that has not actually been with you and functioning in love. I'd like us to close in thinking about this. Our brother over here, Al, had asked the question, did Paul have particular people in mind in the church? And yet he says everything here in the first person, if I speak, if I prophesy, if I have faith, if I give myself up. And I think Paul is a really powerful and effective leader in this because he's bringing the focus back on himself, and he's kind of pulling the veil back and saying, here's my self-evaluation. Here's how I evaluate myself. If I am teaching and leading and fulfilling my apostolic call, but I'm not motivated by love, it is futile. At best, I'm a noisy gang. At worst, I gain nothing. It accomplishes nothing. As in the rest of the Christian life, in leadership, our motives matter. Our motives matter. It doesn't matter how eloquent or bold we are, how much of the Spirit's power is accomplished or shown in our ministry, or how sacrificial we are. If we are not motivated by love in everything we do in our leadership, there's something off, and I think that's what our country is able to see. And so I'd like you to turn your piece of paper over to the back, and I give you a couple minutes here just to think about your own life. Particularly in your ministry, when are you most likely to lose love as your primary motive? And why is that? Most of us want to be people of love, and yet we shift out of love as our primary motivation. If you could take a minute to just reflect on that, you can write there on the sheet if you want. I'll give you a minute to think and respond. And then the worship team, if you would come up and lead us as we bring ourselves, our hearts before God.